We support everything from the Department of Defense to the United States Navy, to obviously several missions across our Army. The Navy train their chaplains at Fort Jackson. We also train our Army chaplains there. The Air Force chaplains listed up here, they departed this last year. I don't think they could handle the pressure from the Army. And so they picked up and then moved back to Alabama. But all of the polygraphers, the folks that train on the lie detectors for the entire United States government are trained here at Fort Jackson. We also do not only basic training, but we also train our Adjutant General and our Finance Corps here. The Adjutant General is the administrative, human resource side of the Army. And they do the full range, not only their initial training, but also intermediate and advanced training as they progress on their Army careers. We also support the United States Navy's training for all their deploying sailors that are going to go potentially in harm's way on the ground, meaning they're not going to be aboard a ship. They're going to serve on the ground in places like Afghanistan, Syria, Africa, etc. We train them right here at Fort Jackson. U.S. Army drill sergeants do their essentially a condensed version of basic training to give them some fundamental skills so that they can operate, survive on that ground battlefield. About every 3 weeks I go and send off those deploying sailors. Usually it's in packs of about 100, 150. We've also got the National Guard, which we're very proud to share Camp McCready with them. It's a proper part of Fort Jackson, but they do a lot of their weekend drill training there and other headquarters training. It's a great partnership, as well as the U.S. Army Reserves. We have 3 reserve centers on Fort Jackson, and we have the 81st Regional Support Command, whose lineage tracks back to the first unit that was formed and trained at Fort Jackson. It was the 81st Division back then, the Wildcat Division. It's one of the first divisions that was called forward in support of World War I to go join General Blackjack Pershing fighting there in France. The U.S. Army Reserve, a recruiting command, has a recruiting battalion that supports not only South Carolina, but a good chunk of Georgia as well. And then we've got a treasure there that we share property with this National Cemetery of Fort Jackson. And I hope everybody, if you haven't gone out there lately, boy, you need to. The symbology that you saw in that video, Ronald Reagan talked about Arlington and what all that has meant for our nation. Well, I'll tell you, you have your own Arlington right here in Columbia with the National Cemetery of Fort Jackson. And I do invite you to come out there. We routinely go out there, obviously on key days, Memorial Day. We just celebrated, but Veterans Day, Reese Across America in December. You find opportunities to go out there and connect with those that have served and those that either fell in combat, or those that just when it came time for them to be laid to rest, they chose to be amongst their fellow comrades in uniform as part of their final resting place, and it's really, really special. And I do encourage you to come out there. We train 60 to 70,000 soldiers a year at Fort Jackson. Let me put that in context. That's more than the entire British Army. Okay, that's scale. That really reflects what our nation generates each and every year to defend that idea that I talked about. 60 to 70,000. In basic training alone, which is roughly around 40 to 50,000 of that, depending on the year and the demands, is more than the Canadian Army, more than the Australian Army, okay? And we do that every single year. And this morning, as in every morning at Fort Jackson, it starts early. So at 0400, 0430, We wake up those young volunteers, civilians trying to earn the right to become soldiers, and physical training is already done, okay? They've already sweat buckets out there in this intense heat, earning that right to here in about 10 weeks to be called that great thing called the American soldier. Okay, our mission at the U.S. Army Training Center is to transform that volunteer citizen into a soldier, and we're building Army readiness. So when you want to know if your Army is ready, the nation is ready to defend those ideas and our interest here and abroad, I'll tell you, if this pipeline would stop, it would not be. We create readiness on a weekly basis, about 46 graduations a year, that we generate new soldiers that join their first unit of assignment. And if that week they didn't show up at their first unit of assignment, I guarantee you the readiness of our Army would drop. They are the lifeblood of the readiness of every single unit in the United States Army. And I'll give you a reflection here in a sec on exactly what that graduation kind of looks like and feels like. But at Fort Jackson, we've got 11 battalions. We had 10 last year. This year, just as a kind of a reflection back to you on the importance that Fort Jackson is to the Army, and is it a growth industry or not, we just added an 11th battalion this year. Okay, we formed the companies. The battalion leadership just showed up this summer. They're already training new recruits to join our Army. So I think the Army does have great faith in Fort Jackson and this community to continue to carry on and grow as the Army needs grow. This is the credentials. I said 46 times a week. We have a graduation. I'll tell you, for me, I'm a young soldier. I've served 32 years, this last May. I go out to that graduation, and it fires me up. I mean, I tell you, it's very rare that I have a low point here, just given the mission, given the location. But all I got to do is go out to a graduation, and it is empowering. It is incredible. About 5,000 family members there joining their soldier on that field, just looking at them. It's the one time they're going to come and intersect with, guaranteed, with their Army career. And they come from all over the United States, as you can see here. This is an example where all 50 states were represented in one single week on one graduating field. That's incredible. America comes to Columbia. I hope you recognize that. I know the businesses around do. We have a tremendous, obviously, economic uplift. But the point is as they come to see their soldier, they're seeing this wonderful community. You're what I call the last tactical mile before the family gets to Fort Jackson. And you're where they stay, okay? Where their soldier has been training to become a soldier. And I tell you, it's incredible. I'll try to talk a little bit about it, but I really can't do it justice. Raise your hand if you've been to a U.S. Army basic training graduation at Fort Jackson. All right, that's good. Now put it down. Raise your hand if you have not. All right. I pledge that I will go to... You got this treasure sitting in your backyard. You need to come, So one of the red carpet's out. Come on down. Come see your Army. I'm helping you meet Fort Jackson here, certainly, but it will not do justice to what attendance at a graduation will do for you. I guarantee you it will be an imprint that will last forever, okay? When you see and feel the commitment on that field, but more importantly, you see what it means to all those families that one of their own has decided to take that step. And I guarantee, except for some, it's with a little trepidation. Right? There's some moms there and dads that are looking at that like, oh my goodness, my son, my daughter, they're going to be a soldier. Fully knowing what that might mean. It's a big deal, all right? So come on down. I'll give you 1 year to make it, all right? We're going to come hunt you down. Hey, the other thing, before I pass on, it's the, you see all those countries? So this one had 7 countries represented. We're a gateway to citizenship in America. It's incredible. The first week of June, we had the Army Chief of Staff, General Mark Milley, come here as a guest speaker for graduation. And he was not tracking how much of an impact from a gateway to naturalization to citizenship that the United States Army and his Army, 63 soldiers that day, right there in front of God and country, raised your right hand and swore allegiance to this nation. And became not only a U.S. Army soldier, but citizens of the United States of America. That's pretty cool. In this example right here, that last country, Burma, was a really kind of a neat story. The soldier, his family originated, he was born in Burma. They fled Burma when some of the civil unrest was really getting really tough. They fled to Thailand. They lived 13 years in a camp. I mean, just think, you can only just imagine what conditions would be like in a refugee camp. 13 years they spent in a refugee camp, and then they were one of the lucky ones to kind of make it this way. And I talked to this, first order of business. Dad didn't make it an option. You will join the United States Army. Okay, you will immediately give back and give our clear thanks and appreciation for what coming to this country has been all about. Pretty cool. Century of service, incredible. 5 million soldiers since 2nd of June 1917, making it happen. We train more soldiers here, transform more civilians into soldiers than all of the other basic training locations in the Army combined. Okay? 2/3 of all the women that join the Army train right here at Fort Jackson. I'm very proud of the leadership that Fort Jackson has had in both gender and racial integration through the years. In preparation for the Korean War, we had about 25% of the soldiers come through here were black. The Army was not integrated. It was a segregated Army. The commander at Fort Jackson, out of military necessity, integrated the training. Now, sadly, as soon as those soldiers left Fort Jackson, they went back to a segregated Army. But we continue to be a guidepost for the Army to get it right. Gender integration actually, trailed significantly. We started in the early 70s getting after it, and then we actually wound it back in the early 80s. But since 1994, we have been fully integrated at the very lowest level, at squad level, men and women. They obviously, sleep in different bays, but at first call at 4 o'clock in the morning after they clean their bays and prepare, and they're down at that first formation, male, female, and that's what we train. And why do we do that? Because that's how we fight. Okay? And one of the first order principles in your Army is that we want to train like we're going to fight. We do feel proud about being stationed here in the state capitol. Do think that is incredibly unique. We've been annexed inside the city of Columbia since 1968. All right? I talked to you about the role of the Chamber of Commerce there in bringing Fort Jackson here to Columbia. But it's one of the few places where the community wanted their Army here, but they wanted them close. They could have probably found a patch of wilderness out there somewhere to place the Army. That's where most of your United States Army is across America. We tend to blow things up, and communities don't like us in their neighborhood sometimes, This community from the inception wanted us on the doorstep. okay? And I think that's special. Huge economic uplift, I think, for the community, somewhere between 2.2, 2.8 billion, depending on the year, of economic uplift, and incredible stuff there. Going back to that history, you know, since the 2nd of June, 1917, you know, so 2nd of June, the War Department, you know, created cantonment numbers, you know, 6, okay, of 16 active duty cantonments across the nation to prepare for World War I. By January of 1918, there were 42,000 soldiers training on Fort Jackson, getting ready to go over to World War I. We've had divisions stationed here, beginning with that 81st Wildcat Division that I talked to, and we've had plenty of divisions just trained here to go to war. And this, you know, you can see where they trained to go to World War II. But since 1956, when we were designated the U.S. Army Training Center, we've been doing our core mission, which is to transform volunteer or drafted civilian into soldier. So that's what I wanted to present to you in terms of just formal information. But I'll tell you, we are proud to be a part of this great community. It is not cliche. You are the most military-friendly community in America. I've been a few places in the Army over the last 32 years, and I can certainly tell you that is my experience. That's the experience of my family. We do feel the love. We feel it's genuine. We hope that we are reflecting all that you want in your United States Army, and we are your Army. We look forward to carrying on for the next 100 years for sure. But I'd like to open it up now for any questions that you might have, either reflecting anything you have here or anything you want to talk about in your United States Army. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
How do we know the dates of the graduations?
There are 40. You can just roll the dice. It might be the 6 weeks that's not there, but every Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday is graduation, and Wednesday is what we call Family Day. Either are impactful. Family Day on Wednesday is the first contact that the families have with their soldiers. It's a little bit more informal. We introduce them to their family. They spend the whole day with their family, camped all over Fort Jackson, trying to find every shade tree and air conditioning that they can. And then the next day, it's a very formal, a high pomp and circumstance for graduation. So roll the dice, show up there on a Wednesday or Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning. Out at a place called Hilton Field. When you get to the gate, we've actually drawn a blue line on the road. You just got to follow the blue line. So once you get through to the gate, it'll lead you to Hilton Field, and you can come experience that. If the chamber wants to sponsor something, I'd be happy to host you as a group coming to a graduation or 2 or 3 or however you'd like to organize that. And we can introduce you to not only a graduation, but the training mission there at Fort Jackson. We do have sessions where we kind of open up the doors for the community to come and look at training. We have a kind of a neat Meet Your Fort Jackson program where we actually take you out to a night, we call the night infiltration course, where you can see those new trainees crawling under direct fire. We're shooting machine guns over them, and then you can talk to them after that. We'll put you under the machine guns too if you want. That'd be if you need a little bit of that. What else you got? Please.
This special ID to get through the
You've got to have for South Carolina.